So then we ended up playing Trafalgar Square to like 20,000 people. It was just so quick. So it was a case of go to Japan, went around all these schools, went and sang in an Irish bar, came back, packed, and I flew to Australia. And he started it, and he was smashing it. There's an opportunity for you to come on board. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? This feels like too big of an opportunity to say no. I was like, right, I'm in.
From Ministry of Work, welcome to Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds, a show about Greater Manchester's pioneers, entrepreneurs and visionaries, and the stories that brought their ideas to life. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and on today's show, I'm joined by Jack Frimston, musician, sales pro and co-founder of a fast-growing lead generation agency right here in Manchester. Jack's story takes us from singing in teenage bands in Blackpool to being on cruise ships through to Australia and eventually to building his own business here in Manchester. After chasing his music dream for years, including live performances, European busking tours and playing alongside names like George Ezra and CeeLo Green, Jack transitioned into sales and entrepreneurship where he found his next big obsession.
So I was born, it used to be Essex. It's no longer Essex. It's a little place called Chingford in the East End of London. So I tell people I'm a real life Cockney. I grew up there. I grew up with my mum and dad, and I was 7 years old when they decided to move to the seaside. So I moved to Blackpool. So it's an honour to be
big change.
Big change. It's an honour to be on this podcast. Obviously, a Mockney that grew up in Blackpool on the Greater Manchester list. So that was it. So it's very weird, like looking back at childhood, because I don't have the most amount of memories from London. Like it always felt like the new chapter happened when I moved up north.
Sure. And what was Blackpool like growing up?
Rough, ready.
Still is.
Yeah, nothing's changed. Underage pregnancy, all the wonders that have it. So there's a small seaside town just down the road called Lytham St Anne's.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was at the other side of the posh bit, so St Anne's. And it was nice, and it was like, you know, those like towns where there's probably like not much to write home about. Yeah. So it was like, it wasn't the most exciting place, but we'd get drunk at 15 on the crater and do what most teenagers do.
Love it. Yeah, I had a similar sort of non-exciting childhood, but equally fulfilling. And when you were sort of in the school years, what were your interests? What things were grabbing you?
I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Like what are the I guess the bits that shape your personality as you grow up, and I remember my mum taking me to like everything as a kid. So like football, karate, all of those things. I was just like, no, don't like it. Don't like being battered. Don't like getting muddy. And then took me to drama class at the age of like 7. I was like, oh, this is like magic. This is like a place to show off. I'm an only child, so it will make sense now. A place to show off, sing, dance, all of that stuff, and like being on stage and getting that. What is it? Is it that gratification or that praise or that kind of
the buzz of it all?
The buzz of the buzz of performing, and I think that's carried on throughout life. And then so I've always as a young person moving into like high school and like my teenage years thought about, like, it was always performance. It was always, I'm going to be a pop star or an actor or whatever it's going to be. And then in the more recent years with the business, like reflecting on childhood, like there's this chunk that I forgot when my dad was an entrepreneur for like 2 years. So he had many jobs in a similar vein that I had, but he set up his own pottery. And like he got to he had this kiln and he had this pottery place, and it did well. And then I think the pressure of it all got too much. He packed it in and moved to St Andrew Mum. But then there's like, oh, so if I like learnt that, you know, like they say, show me
he dared do it, so maybe that opens that door for you, kind of thing.
Everything's learnt behaviour, so it's like, show me the boy at 7 and I'll show you the man. And then I'm like, right, well, there's this still kid that wants to sing and dance a bit, but also wants to run a business. So I think it's like slowly amalgamated.
I love that. as you grew up then through school, performance presumably took quite a big part of that.
Yeah. So I was always involved in like amateur dramatics
Yep.
outside of school. So you name a musical, I was probably in the chorus and practicing lines for it in my early years. And then when I got to about 14, 15, there was, you remember MySpace? So I had
Shout out to Tom.
Shout out Tom, all the friends in the world. I had a guy on MySpace, and I was like, oh, he likes the same music that I like, and he's in my year. I hadn't really spoken to him before. I was like, and I just went up to him in one of the drama classes and was like, you like this music? Do you want to start a band? And he's now like, what is it? 19 years later, still my best mate.
Class.
We've been in bands throughout the years, and that's kind of where it like, I guess the love for songwriting, the love for live music, that's where it like comes from initially.
Yeah. And did that band that you started then, did that go anywhere? Was that just for fun?
Oh, it went so many places, Eddie. We won Fylde's Got Talent. No, we didn't win Fylde's Got. We won something called Park View's Got Talent, which was a park that put on a
Wow.
talent show.
Made
So
it.
yeah, and there was one kid that sung Westlife in a Adidas tracksuit, and we beat him. Shout out Benji.
Yeah.
And then we entered Fylde's Got Talent, and we didn't win that. We came 10th out of 11 people.
Wow.
But that
band.
was, yeah, we were really good. And then I think shortly after that, we were about 16, and we said we've got musical differences. And he went off and started something else, and I went and joined a swing double act called Two's Trouble, and played around the casinos in Blackpool for 2 years before
Wow.
university.
So quite young as well.
Yeah.
doing that must have been pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, I think like it's. I was saying to my partner the other day, I said, "Do you think this is weird?" Right? When I was, I mean, you know, it's going to be weird when you say that straight away. But I was 17. I had a mate's ID, and I was like hanging out with 29-year-olds.
Yeah, in casinos.
In casinos and singing and like going out partying and clubbing with people that were
and like jazz music as well at 17 is even a slight strange coming together, isn't it?
But I thought like, if I'm like 30 now, if I said to Zoe like, I'm gonna go and start a swing band with a 16-year-old, do you mind me hanging out with them on the weekend and rehearsing? I think she'd be like, that's not all right. But
Different times.
different times you got away with it. So we did that for a bit, and then moved out of Blackpool, moved out of St Anne's, and went on to the University of Cumbria, and that's kind of where 18 years old life kind of started to shape of like, where am I going to go? What am I going to do?
And what were you studying there?
Musical theatre and drama probably comes as no surprise. And University of Cumbria, Carlisle. Did you know that Carlisle had a university?
I did not.
No. What does Carlisle have? It has that great advert about the Royal Navy, and that's about it. But I loved it. Like, it was one of those. I had a lot of friends that went to university in Manchester, and every time I'd come and visit, it felt big, like London, and it was just like, this is mental. And I'd be like, oh, I walk around this like small town, and you know everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's a uni town, and then you become friends with the locals. I was like, it's brilliant. And then like slowly fell into another band, which we can dig into if you wish. And that was like the band that did a bit. There was a bit of a story with that band.
Go on then, tell us more about that band.
So,
Not jazz.
no, it wasn't jazz. We were obsessed with, like, it was 2010. So we were obsessed with this idea of like, do you remember Rizzle Kicks? So it was like when Ed Sheeran was coming up and Rizzle Kicks was coming up, and we liked that singy, cheeky, chappy, rappy kind of music. And I started off as a duo. It always starts as a duo. There's always a good place to start. And we were called, are you ready for probably the best band name in history? We were called Swag and Techers.
Oh, nice. Like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was Swag and Techers, and we entered Carlisle's Got Talent, or Cumbria's Got Talent, and it was hosted at the Walkabout as a duo, the local Walkabout. It was great, and we made it, and we for the final we wrote a personalized rap.
Amazing. About Walkabout.
Well, we said here we are at the final of CGT, and we're ready to be bigger than the BFG. So get up, stand up, make some noise, shout. We are on the stage at Carlisle Walkabout.
Brilliant.
You can't write this stuff.
And you've surely won.
We came second.
Oh.
We came second. I believe. I feel like I've blurred it all in my head. I remember being the winner, but no, I definitely wasn't the winner. Yeah, we came second, and that brought on some opportunities. And then we started. We were two best friends at university. We had another best friend. He was like, "Well, I play guitar. You two are pretty crap at guitar. Do you want me to come and play the guitar? One of you can rap. One of you can sing." And then there was a traveling director, because it was musical theatre, and he was travelling, and he was big into the art scene. He came from London, and he came to see us play a gig once. He was like, "You guys are good. Do you want to be managed?" And like, when you're a naive 21-year-old, you think a manager is the only thing that we want. So yeah, of course I want to be managed. Right? Yeah, exactly. He was like, "I've got some friends in the music business." He was like, "Come to London and I'll help you." So shortly after university finished, we'd done a few gigs together. We packed up our bags. We went traveling for a small while, and then we moved down to London, 21, with a suitcase, and we were like, "Right, we're going to be the next Scouting for Girls."
I love that though. Take some balls.
That was the dream.
You know, looking back, you must have been pretty good to have that confidence, or was it naive?
Confidence is a funny one. I think there was a lot of like blind arrogance, definitely. I think we were like, we went busking around Europe, and we took the guitars, and we were stopping crowds. Like, I don't think we were good necessarily, but our songs were catchy. And if there's three guys in the middle of the street dancing around, people are like, "Oh, this is kind of cool." Yeah. So like, when we were selling CDs and stuff like that, and then we got to London, and the manager said, "You can't be called Swaggin' Techers." He was like, "That's the worst name I've ever heard." And we were wearing like jumpers and like flat caps, like flat peaks back in the day when they were popular. And he was like, "Why don't you just change your image up?" And because he was very musical theatre, he was like, why don't we get into like something really cool? Like, you wear different coloured blazers and different coloured ties and all stuff like that. Well, that's cool. And we were like, "Well, what can we be?" Well, we write our own songs and we put a twist on them. And like, we're wearing all these like multicoloured blazers. What about the tailor-made? And then that was, it was very easily done. We were like, right, the tailor-made it is. We started gigging. We started playing like you do in any band. You play to the empty rooms. My aunties come along to watch us. And there was a competition. The first year that we got there, we entered this competition. We sang our own songs, and it was called London's Best Busker, and it was run by the mayor's office. It was all run by Boris Johnson, and that was like the first taste of like, oh, we're getting a bit of a decent response here, and we won it. That one I know we won. That was a definite win. And then the next thing, it was like, you're in the Evening Standard. We were on Gogglebox with Boris Johnson. It was all this like weird things happening, and people were like, "Oh, maybe they're doing things." And then the journey over 6 years slowly progressed, but like very, very slowly, year on year, until there was like a few more moving factors where people would come in and give us opportunities and things like that.
So just going back to those early days, you know, when you play into the near empty pubs, how does that work? Do you get paid like a little bit to be there at least, or is it just, we'll play for free, mate, we just want to play in your pub?
There was this scam back, and it probably is still a thing today in the music industry, but it was called pay to play. So they would give you a gig at a bar on a Wednesday night, but you had to bring 10 people down. Yeah. And you bring 10 people down, you charge them £6 a ticket, and you get £3. So we'd make 30 quid. So we weren't bothered. Do you know what I mean? We were just like, we just want to be out. We just want to be in front of people. I'm not bothered about like necessarily doing those things. We were doing open mic nights as well. So then you turn up, you've only got one person, you've got a friend, and it's like, there's enough money for some beers, but it's really, and it's soul destroying.
How did you fund it? Like, how were you living sort of hand to mouth at that time?
Doing what I've always done on the side, Eddie, sales. So we moved down, and I applied for every sales job. I applied for a recruitment job, and some of them were just like, I was going into the city, and I was wearing this suit, and I was pretending to be this schmuck that I'm not. And you play the game, and you're sitting around this big recruitment table, like, tell us what you want in the next 5 years. And I'm lying. I'm saying like, oh, Rolex, a yacht. Oh, I've got a photo of a nice car on my window. And I'm like, it's all lies. And then London. I don't know how familiar you are with London, but we were living in West London, and I applied for a job in Edgware, which isn't too far. Like, but the way to get there from where we were, you had to go into central London and then back out. It was an hour 45 commute, and I went in, and it was like this dingy call center selling Sky remote insurance. Okay, so who knows that you need? you know it's going to be a good job.
Yeah.
Right. So I walk in, and with this other guy, and I'm like, not to be disrespectful, but you know when you're in like a group interview and you're going, I feel like we're different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's a different league going on, but like not like I'm judging you, but
No,
just
but
like whatever.
I think I've got this.
Yeah, they let this guy go. Like he said, "Oh, you can leave," and they kept me in the room. And they were like, "How soon do you want to start?" And I said, "Well, I've just moved to London. I need a job." They went, "Right, we're going to pull some strings, but you can start on Monday." And I was just like, I was so buzzing. I was sick. I've got this job.
Absolutely.
And it was just a scam. They were just. I was there for 2.5 months. In 2.5 months, I got promoted to sales manager. I brought in the rest of the lads.
Wow.
And we were doing that 2-hour commute there and 2-hour commute home. It was depressing. It was dark. It was like the winter. And you're just thinking like, what are we doing this for? And it was minimum wage. And there was like no commission to be earned. So then we all got called in a boardroom one day. And I really got on with the owner of this company. He was a really nice guy. And he said, one of you in this room has been stealing bank details. I was like, looking around. I was like, well, I know you're not paying us much, but it's not bloody me. And he goes, right, okay. And he said, can I grab you to the sales manager? He went out and he come back in and he went, right, okay, we've sorted it. I was like, what do you mean? He went, he's gone. And then he was like, Jack, can you stay behind? I was like, yeah. So then the team leader got promoted to the sales manager, and then I got promoted to the team leader. So I was like 21. He was like, you're now the team leader. He was like, you've just got to look after, make sure people are on the phones, make sure they're cold calling, make sure they're doing this, this, and this. He was like, and you have autonomy to make sure you get the results. I was like, all right, okay.
I don't really know what I'm doing. I've been here 2 months.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not even very good at sales. How can I like lead a sales team? And I came in the next day, and I remember it vividly because it makes me cringe now. And I'd gone on Google Images and I'd printed like, you know, like the tacky motivational, like, you're a lion, you can do this, believe in yourself, you know, realize, all that. I stuck them up around this room. And then
Full David Brent mode.
Full David Brent mode. And then a few months later, I got sacked from that role. Oh. Yeah. It was weird that the owner was out for lunch and he was like, he didn't even like brief me, but someone come in for an interview and I was like, oh, I'll just interview them. Like, I'm the team leader, I'll do it. And he was like, you shouldn't have done that. He was like, so I'm going to suspend you. And he was like, and then it was all very bizarre.
A bit manufactured almost.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? He was like, we were watching you on the CCTV. I was like, and then he was like, you're suspended. He was like, come back. And he was like, yeah, we don't think it's working, but do you want to give it another shot? And I was like, no.
No, mate, stick it.
And then I moved on to another better sales role.
What made you attracted to sales in the first place, do you think?
So the guy that I spoke about, that I was in a band with when we were like 14, 15, 16, for his work experience, so year 10, he was obsessed with music and still is. He runs a record label today in Manchester, and he went and worked for a publishing company in Lytham. I went and worked in a school for work experience. I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Maybe like teach. Yeah, maybe like, yeah, whatever. He went and worked for a publishing company. It wasn't a publishing company. It was a cold call centre selling advertising space for football clubs. And then he worked there for these 2 weeks, and they went, you're quite good. We could do with someone like you. We know you're 16. Do you want a summer job? He went, yeah. Then he brought in another one of his friends, and then he brought me in.
Got you.
So all three of us were 16, wearing suits, yellow pages on the desk. You're selling advertising space, and it was like, oh, right, okay. But doing that at 16 for 6 weeks, I was like,
say that. That's like mega training. You just money can't buy experience, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It was less than minimum wage. I think it worked out like £2. But that it's I always think about like these full circle moments of like, now I run a business that generates appointments for people. My first job was generating appointments using the phone. It was like, how is like, and there's been this life in between. There's like music, there's traveling, and like but it comes back to that first job. It's bizarre.
So revisiting the band then. So the band at this point, you've done all the sort of hard yards. The first year's out of the way. Then after a bit of time, you're starting to make some progress. You've been on Gogglebox even.
We've been on Gogglebox with Boris Johnson. Yeah, we'd done that competition. We'd won that. There was another competition. We come second in that. So all these London's amazing for it, but there's these different opportunities. So then we ended up playing Trafalgar Square to like 20,000 people. Sick. And like what I think more like you hear this phrase of like fake it till you make it, which I think is bullshit. Like I don't think you should be faking anything. Like we were on the main stage. Did that do anything for our streaming or our followers? I think the day that we played that gig, our follower went up by 1 because most people were there. It was a free event in London, but there was a massive crowd. But just by then having that photo on social media, people are like, oh, they're doing something. Why don't we book them for this? Why don't we get them for that? Then all of a sudden these different opportunities. And I think for 3 years we'd been pushing away, like writing out to record labels, managers, etc. And then we decided we've got to do this ourselves. No one's going to come and help us. No one's going to like hand it to us on a plate. We're trying we're working really, really hard. Like we'd been selected to do Radio 1's house busking band. So like, I don't know if you've ever seen that video of James Arthur. Like he's dressed up as like a homeless man. Yeah. So it's him competing. We'll have to watch it together later. Him competing against a band in Waterloo. Class. So we were that band. So and we did that with the Vamps and a few other bits. So there was all these things that like gave us a bit of a name. So it was like the tailor-made, doing this, doing that. So we're like, let's put on our own gig. Let's rent out a venue. We'll do the O2 Academy
because at that point, presumably you had a niche audience at least to fill
exactly.
It half
and even family
size.
And friends and like people that we'd met along the way. We're like, if we get 200, even if we give 100 tickets away, and like we try and invite industry and we sell 100 tickets, that'll look sick. So we did this gig and we sold it out, and it was an amazing night. We put all the photos on social media, and then a week later we got a message from a guy who was from my own hometown, who runs a massive kind of agency and a promotions company that's been acquired by Live Nation now. He was like, I've seen the gigs that you're doing. We should have a chat. We'd reached out to him years ago when we were no ones. And he was like, actually, if you guys are selling out these spaces, it's probably worth seeing where we can help you. And it was slow, like all things in music and management and agencies and stuff like that. And I think it took like 6-7 months to like get the deal signed. But he was like, I want to work with you. We've got all these ideas, blah, blah, blah. And there's like a welcoming gift. We're doing a gig with CeeLo Green in 2 weeks. We want you to be the support act. I was like,
okay.
Yep.
You must have been thinking then, like, we're on the right path now. Like, that's going to take us somewhere.
But I think it's that blind faith of like, we always knew. And like, we knew, but then also, I mean, we know how it ends. I'm not in a boy band anymore, ready to disappoint. But like, we knew that it was like, I think you've got to know that there's like some green lights. Yeah. I feel like now me and Zach say it, that with the business, it's just felt like green light, green light, green light, green light. Yeah, there's problems. Yeah, there's hard days. That's business. But like the green lights are like, oh, this feels like we're on the right path. Yeah. And that did at a certain point. And then towards the end, it got amber and red, and you're just like, this is going nowhere.
You're starting to fight it.
Yeah. And I think like when you start to fight it, don't do that anymore. And this manager come on board. He got us an agent. We signed one of the biggest agencies in the UK. He got us promoted on with Live Nation. He put us on tour with like, we became like, this company is a specialist at like summer events. Mm-hmm. So like if you've ever been to Scarborough Open Air Theatre or like Lytham Festival, they run all these events. So it was very easy for them to say, okay, these guys are on the bill. These guys are on the bill. So I think in the space of a few years, it was like we toured with the Beach Boys, George Ezra, like Jess Glynn, Madness. We did all these big names, and it was just slowly, and we were building our fan base, and we're like, this is happening. And then Live Nation were like, you're gonna do your own show, and we're gonna try and sell 400 tickets. You've already done 200 in London, so we're gonna do 400 in London, 200 in Manchester, and because you've got because you went to Carlisle, we're gonna do a gig in Carlisle for 100 cap. And we're flogging. we're really working, because we're like, this could be the next step.
Yeah, because if you do that, then the next one's 1,000, 2,000, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the goal. And we're like going out, we're writing songs, we're releasing songs, we're putting them on Spotify. There's not much traction, but there's a bit of traction. One of the songs got used on a University of Cumbria advert. And then like after about a month, they were like, we've got the ticket sales so far. Do you want to hear them? And we're like, yeah. They were like, you've sold 25 in London. I think you've sold 10 in Manchester, and you've sold 2 in Carlisle. I was like, I think that's my mum. Do you know what I mean? I was like, no one's in Carlisle. That was like, we were there 8 years ago. Like, this is painful. That continued, and it was like the numbers weren't going up, and we were doing everything by hook or by crook. Can we sell more tickets? And I was working a sales job selling insurance on the side, and they were like, can we have like a group call, manager, agency, and the promoter? And they like a house of cards, it all crumbled, and they just went, we're going to drop the tour, we're going to pull out. And then our manager was left on the call. He was like, I don't think I can take you any further. And we were like, cool. And one of the lads was like, let's keep going for a bit, let's keep going. And I was like,
say you can see the writings on the wall.
Yeah.
Isn't it? What could you put your finger on, like, why it didn't quite just go any further than it did?
There's probably answers that I could give you, like musically, of like it wasn't very good, but like
aside from that,
yeah, no, like I think it was very. We started the band in like 2013. We were now in 2018. And I know 5 years doesn't sound like a long time, but we were probably still like writing and recording songs that were like the style of like the early 2010s.
Yeah, you almost need that journey to be across 2 years.
Yeah,
not
exactly.
5.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like we were very much. We even got like we did a gig for the British Heart Foundation once because they couldn't afford Scouting for Girls, and they were like, "You guys are cheaper."
Yeah, you sound a bit like
and you
them.
sound a bit like them. Yeah. So it was like Scouting for Girls 2010. They were like smashing it. It was now 2018. Everyone was over that. It wasn't very cool. It wasn't very good. Some things just don't align.
Yeah, timing's everything, as they say. It's the sort of thing, make your own luck in that, but which is true to an extent, but there's also a large part of the luck is timing. Yeah. Timing's everything. If you'd have had that breakthrough 5 years earlier, it might have been a different story. Do you look back with like fondness on that time, or is there a little bit of like, fuck, we came quite close there?
I don't look back with like, we came quite close, because like I think I haven't really like this is like the first podcast where it's like, here's the whole like the story, like here's everything. Like I've been on other podcasts and like I've spoke about it, but like there's especially in like the last few years, it's been like holding back, and I don't know if it's like a bit of like embarrassment of like, there was a piece that I was trying to now run a business and do this proper adult shit, and it's like that band stuff doesn't really fit in. But actually it is a huge part of the story, so I can't. And I'm 7 years removed from it now. The person that I was, I'm not even the same cells or skin that I was 7 years ago. So like, I've changed so much. I'm like a father now. I'm like a parent. I'm like an adult, as you say. I've got a mortgage, Eddie. Like proper, exactly, it's proper. So I try not to, like, I look back on it. I have good memories, but I don't miss it. It's not something that I'm like, I'd love to be back on the stage. I mean, you know what I mean? If you call me up tomorrow and say, do you want to go on tour with the Beach Boys? I'm ready. Yeah. I'm ready.
Yeah, you're always ready.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. But like,
I know you mean. Yeah,
I'm not pining.
And also, it's interesting because, like you say, part of you's probably like wanted to shy away from it a touch, maybe. But without that, there's no way you'd be where you are. And even elements of your business, like you've got your own podcast that does very, very well. There's elements of performance in that wouldn't make you who you are without that experience. Ultimately.
Yeah, and I think the big thing is like obsession, and you probably hear this with like loads of entrepreneurs and business owners, but it's at that time the band was the obsession. Like I'd stay up till midnight, like curating emails and writing emails to people, because that was the obsession of like, let's buy as many lottery tickets, like let's write another song, let's record another song, like let's be obsessed with this in the hope that it's all going to pay off. Like I am a big I'm a big believer in like the big payoff.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes the big payoff doesn't always come.
No, but if you're not playing the game, you're not going to get it right.
Yeah. And as we know in like life anyway, without getting too Buddhist with it, but it's like it actually isn't the big payoff. It's about the journey.
Totally.
But by trying to buy those tickets and by trying to do those things, it's who you become when you're trying to get the big payoff rather than actually winning it. I think if we had become hugely successful and we'd had number ones, I think it would have been the worst thing that would have happened. I think the band would have I think it would have ended in turmoil with the band. I think like individually, I don't think we were like, we were young men in our 20s doing what most young men in your 20s do. Like we were going out on the booze every single night. And it's like, I don't think that would have ended well. So
I always think, where do you go from that? Whereas I think, interestingly, probably one of the best things you could do from having gone from that sort of career in music is entrepreneurship, because it's, to your point, it's the next thing you can become obsessed with. You can be obsessed about work to an extent, but entrepreneurship probably is the nearest equal to it, I imagine.
Yeah. And I've heard people say like you can't get the same buzz as you did performing to a crowd as you do with but actually the body doesn't know the difference. You know, the feeling of a win is the feeling of a win. Like adrenaline and a rush. Like you could probably get the same amount of adrenaline you got playing to 20,000 people being chased by someone trying to mug you. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean it's a good thing. Yeah. It's like it's the win of like so you can create your own wins. And I think that's the joy of entrepreneurship, of like, okay, these are the goals, these are the targets, these are the small term, these are the long terms. And there's been many things in like jobs. I've never been able to stick a job. Like the only two things in my life that have had any kind of longevity is the band for 5 years and then the business. Like otherwise, a job, like the most I've ever been in a job is like a year. Most jobs 3 to 6 months. Like this is boring. Whereas it's like in business, you're making your own rules.
How quickly from the band sort of folding to starting the business was it? How quick was that transition?
That was 3 years.
Okay.
So there was I joined. So Zach set up the business in July 2021.
Mm-hmm.
I joined the business in January 2022.
Yeah.
So at the start of the year, and the band finished. I'd already been like the warning signs were there,
Sure.
and I thought I want to travel the world. I've been a singer. Why don't I go on a cruise ship and just see if I can like live
earn a living
free,
while
earn a bit of
traveling?
money.
Yeah, great.
I rang one of my friends. I said, "Oh, my band split up," and he was a music manager as well. And he was like, "Do you want to come to Japan with me and come and like sing in some schools and do some Japan stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And the week before I went to Japan, I got a letter saying, "Congratulations, you've been successful. You've got a job on a cruise ship in Australia, but you fly out 2 days after you get back from Japan." And it was just so quick. So it was a case of go to Japan, went around all these schools, went and sang in an Irish bar, singing Joseph and his amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, came back, packed, and I flew to Australia. And that was within that phone call, I think it was 3 weeks.
Unreal.
And it was just like that. And then I got to Australia, and I remember, like any new experience, I'd gone from like, Is this, you know, the transition is like, do you remember primary school when you think like you're cock of the walk?
Yeah,
like,
you get to the top,
yeah,
year
come
6
on,
and
like,
you're top
look
of
at
it.
you, what, you're a reception.
Yeah,
nice
yeah.
try. The football pitch is ours. And then you go into high school, you're like, oh, this is awful. So I'd gone from that piece of like, had a really big community in London, like the sales company that I was working with, I knew everyone, had been there a few years, the band, blah, blah, blah. Flew out to Australia, knew no one. I now understand the politics and like the semantics of cruise ships. But I got there and I like my boss, I went, "Lovely to meet you, really, really excited." And they just looked at me and just didn't shake my hand on the first day. I was just like,
Great.
Oh, is this what it's going to be like? And then like you're in a room with somebody that's snoring, like you're sharing a room, and I'm there and the sea's crashing and it's rocking and I feel sick and I'm like, I've made the biggest mistake of my life. What have I done? Oh my God, this is awful. And then a few weeks passed and it got better and it got better and it got better. And it became like one of the best experiences of my life.
Unreal. What, that point you then come back presumably from that and decide to start looking into jobs again and or going into business. What's that look like?
So I did that. I did Australia for 6 months, and then came back for a small piece in the summer, and then I got another job where I was the lead singer of a band, like docked out of Miami. Did that, and then the pandemic hit. So it was 2020.
Yeah.
So it was March 2020, and I was like, "What do I do now? Like, where am I going to go?" I was like, all the while I've been in London. Like I'd been living in London. I was like, I'm not going back to London during the pandemic. Like it's lonely. And I was like, and my mum didn't want me to go to Lytham because of the pandemic and her health. And I was like, what am I going to do? My dad was like, why don't you come to Liverpool for a few months and like just till you get on your feet. And my friend in the band that we've spoke about a few times now, he was like, I've got a spare room. And weirdly enough, before I'd gone on the cruise ship, Zach was meant to move in to that room, and then he met his partner, who he now has children with, and he was just like, I'm actually going to stay down south because it's always raining in Manchester, so what's the point? Thankfully he did, because there was a room for me. So after that I came back from the pandemic, I was like itching to work, so I got a little job at Amazon, and then I moved to Manchester in 2020, and that was it's 5 years this month that I've been in Manchester now, and it's like my dad grew up here, it's his hometown, and it feels like this is like home now.
Yeah, where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
And then presumably you met your partner here.
Yes.
Had children.
Yes.
Or child and one on the way.
Child and one on the way.
And the business, how does that involve? Obviously, you've mentioned your business partner there a few times as well. Tell us the story of how that has sort of started.
So Zach was... I was at a loose end. Like I'd come off the cruise ships and I said, I can't go back on the cruise ships, and I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'd got a crappy job in sales, selling insurance, story of my life, don't know what you're doing, get a job. And you know what? It was all right, and it was paying great commission. I'd had more money than I'd ever earned, but I still wasn't, it's that purpose thing of I don't feel fulfilled. So on the side, like I always love side hustles. I was a singing waiter on the side, so I was like turning up at wedding venues, pretending to be a waiter, falling over, then bursting into song, running speed dating events. I was doing all these different things. And then Zach was at a real loose end, and he was just like, I'm not enjoying my job. I'm doing this. People keep saying they don't want to buy what we're selling, but I need someone like you. Do you want a job? So he was like thinking, what if instead of just like working for somebody, I do what I do now, but for 5 different people. I could work Monday for a marketing agency, Tuesday for a construction company, and I'll just pick up the phone, ring their dream clients, and book them in with meetings.
And did you know at that time that was like its own sort of industry? No. Or did you just think, well, I do this currently internally, why not do it externally for a bunch of different clients?
So I was so far removed. Like he's texting me going, this is a brainwave, and I'm like, I'm still doing my singing waiter stuff and running. I'm like, mate, we've been best friends for like 18, 19 years. So I was like, I support you from afar. Whatever you do, you're the kind of guy that I know is going to go out and smash it. Like you'll kill it. And didn't know about lead generation agencies, didn't know that was a massive thing, probably should have Googled it. And he started it, and he was smashing it. I was like, he had all these clients paying him money. He was like, there's an opportunity for you to come on board. Do you want to do it? And I was umming and ahhing. I was like, oh, another sales job. Like, do I do this? What if it ruins our friendship? You've got kids. What if I'm not good enough? What am I this, and this? So all these doubts kind of creeping in. And I had an ongoing interview process with the BBC, and I was trying to go down the podcast production route.
Oh, cool.
I got to the final stages, and there was these conversations were still continuing, and it got to a point where I was like, you know what? This feels like too big of an opportunity to say no. I was like, right, I'm in. And that was in the October. The day after I said officially, I was like, let's do it, I'm in. I got the rejection email from the BBC. I was like, okay. And then I resigned. I resigned mid-November, and I was going to go and start working with Zach the back end of November and December. And my boss at the time was like, cool, you do have a month's notice period. And I was like, well, if I want to go, can I not just go? He was like, you can. He was like, but one, don't burn bridges. And he was like, would you rather not start a new role in the new year? He was like, do you really think it's good to like start a new role in December cold calling? And I'm so glad he kept on to me, because trying to call people and then it's like 2 weeks.
That killed your confidence and God knows what else.
Yeah.
And so at that time, obviously, business partners down south, you're up here. did you have a plan to move down south, or was it just always like, cool, you're up north, I'm down south, let's crack on?
That was it. It was a case of like, the visions, in the same way that the band vision was there of like, we're going to do this. I remember like when Zach came to visit on the first week, it was like, I'm just talking, like after a few days of getting on the phones, booking meetings, we were talking about like the 5-year plan, what we're going to do. And it was like, these things are going to happen because whether it's blind confidence or delusional naivety, whatever, let's go out and do them. So it was a case of, I'll set up a Manchester office and you set up a Bournemouth office. And it scaled quicker than we were probably ready. And we moved quicker than like, it was brilliant because all these clients were coming on board and it was a case of like, there's only 2 of us now. We need more people. So let's hire one person. So we went to hire one person and there was these 2 brilliant guys. We were like, we want both. And then one of our clients said, I want 3 people full time.
Shit.
And I was like, both of them, me, let's go to Prague. We're in business now, lads. Let's make a proper run of this.
And where were your clients coming from in those early days?
Cold calling.
Yeah.
Like
so
always.
The proof in the pudding.
Yeah,
right?
the proof is in the pudding. Like some of the first clients I worked with were some of the weirdest ones. Like I worked with a multi-millionaire guy in like Yorkshire that sold concrete, but he also had a hotel and he wanted to invite people to the hotel to have a look at it. And it was like, but this is the thing, when you pick up the phone and say, this is what I do. And there was like less rules. I remember the first client I ever signed. Now we're a proper business now. Like we sell retainers, there's commitments and stuff like that. It was like, you want to come and do it? All right, pay for a day, see what happens. And it was cheap as chips. So it was like, what? So I can just pay you a few £100 and you'll dial for the day? Yeah. And all the scripting, you'll write that up front. Yeah.
And then the proof's in the pudding again, isn't it?
Yeah,
right?
yeah. If we make it work, buy more
zero
days.
risk, isn't it?
Yeah. And that was it. So it was a case of like, oh, I'm getting this for this many days. What happens if I put more money in? Oh, I get more days. And then businesses that we were working with started scaling, and then that gave us the opportunity to start hiring more, and then really like learning the business problems that you face.
Then obviously like, oh shit, I've now got to somehow mature this business to match the revenue that we're now earning.
Yeah.
It's that kind of going back to the idea of you feel like you're winging it, don't you?
Yeah.
But
always, and it's like, and then you look back and then I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm winging, and I feel like you'll always
when you move up a step, it's unknown still, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even when I sold the business, I was like, well, now what? Like, no one tells you like how to be sensible with investments and things like that. So it's like, oh fucking hell, now I've got to learn all this new shit. But I think for me, and probably for you, like the learning is the bit that enthralls me and keeps me engaged with it all. That's what I absolutely love about it all.
It's the obsession. It comes down to it of like, there's enough resources out there to be like, okay, how do I? So you think of it as like juggling plates of like, how do I become a better salesperson because I want to nail sales? Okay, how do I become a better leader? How do I become a better delegator? How do I become a better partner and father and all these things? So it's like this self-development kind of porn journey as well. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, how do I just optimize myself to kind of be the best version of me?
Has there been any particular highlights on the business journey so far that you're like, yeah, that was class?
I think definitely like getting our first proper office, because I remember when I started, Zach was working from home and he was calling from his bedroom, and then I was like, I actually can't. My mate works from home. I was like, there's no space. I'd need like a co-working office. So we hot desked in an office in town, but it wasn't like everybody else. Most people in that office were like production companies or marketing. So you sat there, you've got your Monday.com board or whatever, and you're moving CapCut, or you've got your earbuds in. It's fine. I was the loser in the corner, over and over again, and no dialer, no headset. It was like, I've got a phone, so I need to be in a corner of the room where I've got signal.
Yeah.
And it was like, and there was one yellow booth, and I was like, but I can't be the
guy who's in there all day, every day.
And I was, and I was.
Hey, needs must, mate.
Needs must. And I remember walking up the stairs once, and there was these recruitment consultants, and they were just like, "You going in your office, mate?" And I was just like, "Oh," and I was like, I'll show you one day. I will have an office one day. And I think those moments, and we moved into an office in Spinningfields, and over the space of 6 months, we went from 2-person to 4-person to 8-person to a 12-person.
Class.
To like, it was very quick because we're a service business. We need good
exactly.
people.
As soon
So
as
it's
you
like
earn the new clients, you've got to put
the
people.
scaling happened. So it was like, so they're definitely some of the moments. And then like flying out to Prague to visit clients and work with people, and like I get a real buzz of the, you know, like when, because I think about when I was like 20, 21 and you don't know something, you don't know what you don't know. So now because of LinkedIn, you post something that works for you, someone else uses it, and then they get the buzz, and then they pass it on. And it's that gratitude. So it's like you get a real good feeling when you go in and do training with companies and they say, oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, class. And what do you see as the sort of the future for what you're building? Like, where do you see it going in the next 2-5 years?
It's a great question. I want, the issue is, call a spade a spade. It's a lead generation company. We're a sales agency. We help people that are struggling, but the main thing they come to us is training, consultancy. Yeah, they're the bits that they want, but the biggest thing is they want sat appointments. They don't want to have to do the dirty work. They know it's hard. They know that in this day and age, you have to call loads of people. You have to have the right data, the right tooling, stuff like that. We would love to become like the most reliable, trusted like hub of that. And at the end of the day, every business, so many people focus purely on service. And we were talking about this off camera, but like it's on, if you don't have any clients, it doesn't matter how good, you could be the best bloody accountant in the Northwest. If you don't have any clients, it's pointless. So what we want to do is we want to become that hub. And all of those, there are so many different things like that generate leads. And it could be, at the moment, we're a phone first agency and we look at other channels and we do some direct mail campaign, but we know that photography, videography, all these different things, could we become an agency that if you are, oh, we need more leads, we need more set appointments, whatever it is, we just go to those guys because we know that they're reliable and we can do that. So we want to grow that. Like, I think there is that real buzz, and I get it now when I've got like a team of 10 or 15 and you're hearing them on the phones and there's like cold calls going out throughout the office. To have a floor of 60 and 100 and like, oh, there's your finance sector, there's your tech sector, there's your this sector, and we become real specialists in what we do. I think that's the dream over the next few years.
Yeah, that'd be unreal. Quite an achievement, that.
That's fingers crossed. Let's see if I get some grey hairs along the way.
That's Jack Frimston, co-founder of We Have a Meeting. Thanks so much for listening to the show this week, and please do make sure to click the follow button on your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to check out Ministry of Work, where you can also sign up for a free trial day. This episode was produced, recorded and edited right here at Ministry of Work, with a special thanks to our studio manager Dan Brown and, of course, to you for listening. I'm Eddie Whittingham, and this has been Greater Manchester's Greatest Minds.